Dusty, man, there's some great memories with Dusty. And again, when you're a booker, you're not the fan favorite when it comes to the dressing room a lot of times. And when I think about the opportunity to become his partner, become the superpowers, again, much like Jim, I'm very grateful that they thought enough of me and my ability to be able to, again, pull that off, of being a Russian babyface, right? Who at the time was voted #1 most hated in wrestling, and then became essentially #1 fan favorite, 1987, I think, right? Inspirational Wrestler of the Year, and man, Dusty and I had so much fun. I was just telling one of my daughters recently. We were talking. Dusty's name came up, and we were talking about how he and I used to fly on the planes together, and we get back in those days, USA Today, and we go right to the want ads, and we go to the land for sale section, and man, we always talk about him and I going in together and buying, whether it was land in Montana or Colorado or Idaho, so like buying, several hundred acres ranch or something, just splitting it up or whatever, and with running brooks and wildlife running on, snow-capped mountains in the background, and we were dreaming, man. The Russian Nightmare and the American Dream. We were dreaming. We were dreaming. We're like, man, we got to do that one day, And we never did. Unfortunately, we never pulled the trigger. We never bought any product, although we talked about it for many, many, many conversations. We drive up and down. We weren't on private planes. We were driving together. And what's funny is, I say it's funny, Dusty drove most of the time. Now he's the booker, but he had his red convertible Mercedes. See, let me drive, baby, let me drive. I'm gonna drive, baby. Maybe they just didn't trust me behind the wheel. I don't know. That might have been part of it. Now that I think about it, right? But I had a gold convertible Corvette that I still have to this day, 32 years later. And he had a convertible red Mercedes, but he'd drive most of the time, and we had such great camaraderie, just laughing and talking in the car, and again, just dreaming on the way to matches and the way home, and he helped me a couple times, kind of set the record straight with what I felt were some shady promoters, and he told me, the kid, let me tell you a story, kid. So he was always telling me stories, and was so grateful for that he would share those stories. And I drove to Atlanta one time. This is when he had his wrestling school in Marietta. And I'd written my first book called Breaking the Chains, A Handbook to Christian Living. And I felt like I was supposed to give him a copy of it. And I called him up one day and I said, Dustin, come down, take you to lunch. He's like, okay, baby, yeah, we'll go to lunch. So I drove to Atlanta, drove 4 hours from Charlotte to Atlanta. We were out at lunch. He goes, what are you doing in town, baby? I said, I'd come take you to lunch. He goes, no, I know that, but what else are you doing in town? And I'm like, I'm taking you to lunch. He goes, what are you doing after lunch? I thought I'm going back to Charlotte. He goes, wait a minute, baby. So you drove all the way down here from Charlotte to take me to lunch and you go back home? I'm like, yeah. He goes, why would you do that? I go, you know what? I go, I love you, Dusty. And I feel I wrote this first book. I feel I'm supposed to give you a copy of it, And so I had already signed it to him and personalized it and gave him a hug when I left and told him I loved him. And I had a buddy of mine who was in his school at the time. He called me later that night. He goes, when you left, he goes, Dusty went in his office. He was in there for 2 hours. I think he read your book from cover to cover. And it just, just really touched a special place in my heart. And so to look back on my time that I got to spend with Dusty is special. And he was very helpful and instrumental in the early part of my career. When he came into the territory, we started doing some arm wrestling things in the ring and, some of that. And encouraging me and coaching me on the art of professional wrestling. And so, very special place in my heart for Dusty. Always will be.